Awesome. First question, what food can you not bring to camp? Cool, you're still awake? Okay. Safeguarding is everyone's concern. Thank you, Ed. Oh, gosh. I've got that out of the day. Okay, so we are almost there, guys. We've just got 2 modules to go, and I just want to thank you all for just being awesome and just your commitment to be here as well. We're a few down, but we really appreciate that you've all come along and joined in today and brought your humour where it's been needed. So, behaviour management then. We've spent most of the morning sort of learning about some of the challenges, some of the difficulties and the adverse experiences that a lot of our children will have experienced, and how some of that can present itself and some of the challenges that it can bring. And I suppose the question around behaviour management and how we handle those circumstances perhaps can be some of the most intimidating part of your camp experience, or some of the things you will worry about the most. But don't worry, we've got you covered. So in terms of why we take this approach, as we've learned today, children that are coming to camp will have been impacted by ACEs that has a neurological See, we've just had a break and it's all been silly, and now I've got to try and be sensible. It will impact these children's ability to regulate. And something that can seem really petty can be what easily triggers some of these children. And in terms of how we best manage that, basically it's about understanding that some of these children will act and behave and be triggered by things that perhaps the rest of us wouldn't. And it's about us looking at these children and understanding them, meeting them where they're at, and making sure that the approach we take is the best to support them in that individual circumstance. Now, I show this image always. I showed it recently on the newbie training in terms of a brain scan of what is a regular 3-year-old that's grown up in a healthy, supportive, loving, nurturing home, and a 3-year-old that has experienced extreme neglect. And now this image always really jumps out to me in terms of just the size difference, the colour with the dark areas, and essentially just the huge evidence of the difference in that child's brain. But if I had two 3-year-olds in front of you, they're going to look the same in many ways. You're not going to see what their brains look like, and therefore the impact of the abuse that they've experienced. So essentially, we can't judge a book by its character. We can't see every 6-year-old and expect them to behave the same as every other 6-year-old. So, and again, I know I've covered this in lots of the training we've done before, but in terms of the way the brain sets up, all of us each have an upstairs and a downstairs brain, and this can be sort of explained to you in the fist. So we have our downstairs, and this would be our brain stem, and then we have the downstairs part of our brain if you do that. So this is where all of the emergency part and the safety aspect of our brain is, in terms of I'm hungry, feed me, there's something dangerous, keep me safe. There's a weird person over there in a yellow jumper, what is she going to do and jump out at me? A baby crying, they're hungry, crying, they've got they've filled their nappy and they're crying for attention for somebody to come and look after them. It's only then when we have the upstairs part of our brain, which is stuff like our memories and our logic. I might be hungry, but it's okay, our food is in an hour. All of those logical things are all of our upstairs part of our brain, and then it grows over the top and forms our brain. When a child, or any of us, are triggered, something angers us, something has a huge emotional impact, what the likelihood is that, coin the phrase, flip your lid, the whole top half of your brain comes off and it goes into shutdown mode and it's totally gone. And I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase, flip your lid. And that is about the logical brain just shutting down and going kaput. And then we adjust down to the basic human nature of ourselves, of keeping ourselves safe and protecting ourselves. Now, in relation to some of our children, and it's about understanding when that child is in that flip your lid state, and I'm sure we can all we can all put ourselves in that position where we've been in that position ourselves, where our lids are flipped. Or you can understand a child that's in that circumstance where something really trivial might have happened. They may have lost a game. They may not be able to find the red pen that they want to colour in that part in the activity centre. Maybe something that seems so trivial to you, but actually the logic part of their brain is gone. And we're not going to try and say to them, calm down, or try and rationalise with them. They may have, we used the example earlier, thrown a chair out the window, or they may have hit somebody, or they may have swore at you. Trying to expect them to have logic in that instance is just, we're not going to get through to them. When I'm angry and I've lost it, if somebody said calm down to me, what am I likely to do? Honestly, probably punch them in the face. Yeah, but actually what helps, give them the space, we'll distract them, we'll go off and do something else, give them the time, and you will see physically in them where they've come back down to earth and that upstairs brain has come back alive. And then maybe you can have a chat to them about, do you know what, I thought you got really upset then. I wondered if this was because you couldn't find the red pencil. I don't know, I have phoned to a red pencil in the activity centre, but I have. Or it may have been actually because you found what that person said really difficult, and I wondered if that upset you. It's being able to talk when they're in that calm space and not expecting a child to be able to bring logic into their heightened space. Yeah, so like I've said, some of our children may be reactive to minor things that might put them into fight, flight or freeze reaction. Did you notice what it was? It's about, we'll talk later about being curious. Especially you as a big, when you're with your child 24 hours a day, or, you know, apart from the 3 hours we let you sleep. But when you're with them from day into night, and you get to know that child, and you'll start to see, or do you know what, just before dinner time, in that half hour, they start to get really dysregulated, because actually they really panic about food. But then you can remind her, oh, hey, here's the menu, you know what's coming. It's about understanding that child and the sorts of activities or the sorts of times a day that the things try to get difficult, and how then can you support them in those moments. Okay, so yeah, so as much as we talk about all of these difficulties, it's not to think that you'll come to camp and it'll be an absolute zoo and kids will be kicking, even though sometimes it might feel like that, but it's not that at all times a day, all of our children are kicking off and it's all crisis, because that's not really what it looks like in reality. We will have 10% that will be compliant. Yeah, okay, we may then see 10% of children that might have some behavioural difficulties, and some of those kick-offs, they do happen. I'm not pretending that they don't. But actually 80% of those children will just go along with what we're doing. So much of how we build camp and the structure that we put in really supports that child to cope in that experience. So you'll see a lot of compliance. And you know, when we've talked about a lot of children this morning who may have got low self-esteem and have those sort of difficulties, actually, we see a lot of people-pleasing in that behaviour, and they will go along with much of what we're doing. So don't expect that every single child is going to explode at every single point of the day, because that's not the reality either. And it's about how we can just best understand the children that we are based with and how we can get them through the day. Yeah, so that comes down to structure. Ali's gone through the sort of routine, and you've seen that actually the days are so predictable, and that's on purpose. You know, we've talked about children and their experiences and the fear they may have. Actually bringing predictability into the day brings that security to that child. They know every day that we have breakfast. Then we go to breakfast club, and then we do maybe 30-30 time, or we might go swimming. In the afternoon, we're going to do that activity, that activity, that activity. It's actually, yes, it makes life a lot easier for us in terms of how we organise and how we know what's going on, but actually it is about that structure and that boundary for those children. And just, you know, it's not about, I always tell my children, I don't give you rules to be boring, it's to keep you safe, but actually it is to support these children to thrive. Yeah, and I love this quote, really. When children are overwhelmed by big emotions, it's our job to share our calm, not to join in their chaos. And I think that's something for us to remember, I guess, for the whole thing about camp. It's not to join in with any chaos that they've got, but actually what can we do to bring our calm into their lives? And it's in all situations, it's not reacting to the child straight away, it's a check-in with yourself. My good, my calm. Then you can bring that calmness to the child and help them to move through it. So let's look at some practical tools then. Yeah, so we are much more about being nurturing than we are controlling. And at camp we've got the A's, so we've got tons of activities. Affirmation is a really good one. And we make sure that we give all the compliments and all the affirmations that we possibly can to every child. Even the child that's being really compliant and just going along with everything, actually, it's just affirming how awesome they are and how glad you are to be with them for that day, how amazing they were at the climbing wall, even if all they did was touch it. It doesn't matter what they do and how far they succeed, we always encourage and affirm them. Affection, yes, we've talked heavily about not giving front hugs and not having on our laps, but actually we can still give affection, the power in the high five or just the encouragement or the pat on the back that we can give. Applause, yes, we give a ridiculous applause to Ed earlier on. Okay, sorry Ed. He loved it, but in reality that is how we want to treat each other and how we want to treat these children. So it is about overly praising, even saying, Keisha, that was flipping amazing how you taught us that dance later. But it is about how we treat each other, but also how we applaud the children for everything they do. We have appropriate guidelines. We give attention. Ali talked about this a lot earlier in terms of being present and being in the moment and using these to de-escalate situations. So the theory in which we sort of go by in camp is PACE, which stands for playfulness, acceptance, curiosity and empathy. And it is a model for parenting by Dan Hughes. This is all to do with securing attachments, and this is a module that we will talk through. So first of all is playfulness. So playfulness sort of encourages us to, give that playfulness in terms of how we interact with the child. That's not, you've got a child crying in front of you and you're just going to joke around and do some juggling. It's not about that, but it is about actually how can we bring some playfulness into some of those circumstances. It is about the playfulness in the way that we talk and the way that we interact. It's about being soft and open. And like I said, it's not necessarily about being funny at all times, but it's about how we just react and be playful in those moments with children. Acceptance. Acceptance is about validating the feelings that child has. Now, it's not necessarily that we're going to agree with what their feeling is, but it's that we hear them and we understand. It's not about sort of adding extra shame or telling them that their opinions or feelings don't matter. So it might be a child that says, everybody hates me. Now, is that statement true? No. And us jumping straight in and saying, that's not true. It's totally taking away how that child's feeling in the moment. And it can be a case of, I'm really sad to hear that you feel like everybody hates you. I'm sure that's a really hard to feel that way. But can I just encourage you and tell you that I actually really like you. I'm really glad to be here with you. I think you're awesome. It's not taking away that that's how they feel. It's not, and it's not agreeing with them and saying that's right, but actually it's sitting with them in that moment and getting that's how they feel and letting them feel like they've been heard. And then curious. I talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of thinking about their triggers, but remain curious about that child. And I think so often, especially if it can be maybe aggressive or physical or really challenging, we can go straight to that behaviour, but actually be curious about that child. Wonder what it is that's made that happen. Is that from their past and from their trauma, or actually is something small just poking them and pressing them? But you can be curious in the way that you speak with that child as well. I can see you're really upset right now. I wondered if it's this. Yesterday you really, really enjoyed being in the activity centre. I wonder if something's upset you and that's why you don't want to make the starfish that I think are really cool and I can't wait to see them in real life. And giving that space to be curious with that child. One, thinking about what it is that's upset them, but two, you can have that conversation with that child as well. And in that moment, it can help. Like I said, I can see you upset, maybe you're tired, and in 30 time you want to go and have a nap. And it can really help to diffuse that situation, but not to bring any punishment into it. And then empathy. Now, I've got to think again about this now, because Dave was bang on this morning. He said it's not empathy, it's sympathy, but it works in the acronym of PACE, okay? So you're just going to roll with it. But I lost my thought now. Yeah, so sorry, it's because I'm thinking of sympathy over empathy now, but roll with me, right? But it's not necessarily about rushing to try and take away that feeling either. If you're sad, you think about in your life, if something's terrible happened, and you wouldn't go up to a friend who's an adult who's, I don't know, maybe lost somebody they loved and been like, shall we go to McDonald's? You will understand that they're in that place of sadness, and it's not our job to take that feeling away, but it is our job to sit with them in that moment and have sympathy or have empathy with them in that moment in terms of what they're feeling, and allowing them and being present with them. Okay, in practice, I really should have brought my glasses, which is not a great job. So, some of the typical responses then, I don't know why they're typical, because I'm not really sure. Yeah, so in terms, we wouldn't say stuff like, that would be just a really rude thing to say, Lucy, but it's about being paceful in our approach, using the playfulness, acceptance, and curiosity and empathy. And an example there says, so, yeah, yesterday you really enjoyed the swimming. I wondered if you could help me understand what's different today. You seem, maybe you've got something on your mind. You're finding it difficult to relax sometimes, or sometimes I can as well. And I find it hard when I get excited about things, and that's okay. So just getting down on their level and being open. Practical tools. Now, I ask this to myself, because when I'm getting really wound up, but HALT is a really good one. Are they hungry? Because I'm quite a hungry person. Are they hungry? Are they angry? Are they lonely? Or are they tired? And just taking a moment and coming back into that curiousness when things you can see are going off the rails or getting a little bit difficult, and you can see that child becoming a little dysregulated. Ask yourself that question. Are they any of those things? Are they hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? And quite often it can be one of those, more than anything else. So then step one, and like I said earlier, it's about having a check-in with yourself first and make sure you're calm. To bring your calmness, check yourself first. Then you move on to calm the child. Use some of the PACE approach, and then always reconnect with that child after. And that's really, really important. If there's been a really difficult circumstance, maybe they've been aggressive towards you, maybe they've sworn at you, maybe they've not wanted to speak to you that day, it's about having that time to reconnect afterwards, so they know that they haven't broken that relationship, they haven't pushed you away forever, and you don't dislike them or have bad feelings towards them. Just get back in that good space where you can. Okay, so you've used PACE, you've named the emotion with them, they know how they're feeling, why they're feeling that way, now what? So you shift the focus to what you want that child to do. So if we can give them a choice, we will give them choice, because that gives them a level of power. So okay, you've got a choice. You can put the ball down and we can go and grab a snack on the way to the next activity, or we can just go straight there. So if we give them that power, and that choice where possible, it can help us improve engagement. But actually sometimes that's not possible, and we do need to be direct. If they're harming someone else, well, no, we don't hurt other people, that's not acceptable. You need to stop, thank you. So it's about where we can give choices, but where we need to be direct, you be direct. Okay, so routines, I think I've covered this as well. Routines help the child know what's coming next and what we expect of them. We ensure to keep that consistent and predictable. And Ali alluded to the fact that we use now and next. Now we are going to the dinner hall, are we going to have lunch? Next we are going to go swimming. And that seems something really, really simple, but actually it adds so much predictability and safety for that child. So really think about the terminology you're using when you're talking with them. The visual displays, all the children and the bigs will have a lanyard. They're really simple. Beth designs them for us, lets them know what's going on through the day, but there's lots of images and stuff on there as well, just to help them. So it's just got that added security of when they're walking around, and depending on the child, but they will be quite rigid and know that, but actually we don't change that schedule unless Hannah really does, but I don't think we've ever really done it, have we? Just so they know at all times what's going on to help them feel safe. Okay, other practical ways. Prayer, we use this massively, not to be underestimated, but spend time, and even when you're running around and in chaos, a big, or walking to the next place, you can be praying for that situation. If you know sometimes the pool and the dressing afterwards is something that can be where things sort of go wild, and then we can pray for that child, for there to be a feeling of safety and calm. Be soft in your approach and the way you speak, but be assertive. It's important to be assertive to show that we've got things covered and we've got things under control, but you can still be assertive and be soft in your approach, and to consider the way you talk, speak to them. The visual reminders and the hand signals. Don't know why I got that on there. Can you give us an example?
Yeah, so like sometimes when they little friends are overwhelmed, you want them to go that way.
We're going to go down there. Now we're going to the dinner hall. Next we're going to the swimming pool. Okay, Han, thanks. And give clear and specific directions on our expectations. So let's not be vague in terms of what we expect of them. If we're not going to the swimming pool and say, oh, be good in the pool now, because what does that mean? It's maybe, let's not jump on the other children because some of them might find it difficult to swim. It's about being really clear about what it is that you expect them to do, and not being woolly or wishy-washy with your expectations. That leaves them then curious and unsure what you want. And yeah, gentle and appropriate touch. Ooh. Praise, I think we've covered this, but it's so important that we're constantly praising the children, talking to them about what we want them to do, not necessarily focusing on what we don't want them to do. Assertive voice, I obviously wanted to get that across twice. Giving choices, like I said, where we can, to just give them that element of control, and a playfulness and plenty of opportunities to play. We will have loads of activities. We will and get to know our children and understand the triggers. Help. Now that's a really important one. I've talked a lot about how you've got to check in with yourself before you speak to a child and deal with that. If you can feel that actually you're quite triggered, you're really tired, and you can feel you're a little bit snappy, there's no problem in asking for help. That's really, really important. Better to ask for help than react in a way that we wouldn't want. So, there'll be people everywhere that you can call on.
As you are about this bit of the PowerPoint, because I didn't know I was doing it. So this is very exciting. I'm really excited about this. Are we all okay, first of all? Are we doing okay? We are nearly to the end of our training. We all right? Are we awake? Yeah? A couple of you are awake, a couple of you. As long as you don't snore, it's fine. We don't mind. I've tried what Ed was saying earlier about the snorers. When I know people are snorers, Ruth, I try really hard to put them in rooms with other snorers. But when I don't know, I can't, work that out, Ed. So you're going to have to, fess up and tell me who the culprits are so I can... Okay. I'm going to need to be in one of those snorer rooms. I'll bring an orthopedic to them, I'll lie on side, and it'll be fine. There we go. 85 years old. Oh, brilliant. Okay, let's see what happens here then, shall we? Ready? Oh, right, we're going to pray before camp. So the whole point of this section is about maximising the impact. So we talk a lot about this is the rules, this is what we do, this is why we do what we do, but how does that all come together, basically? How does it all fit together? And how do we use everything that we've learned, everything that we know? And I think as well, you know, coming back, when it's quite easy to get complacent. I know a lot of the children won't let you get complacent, but when you're thinking about camp, it's quite easy to get complacent if you've been multiple times. And I think it's important just to kind of help our brains to just have a little think about how we bring everything together, why it works. And actually, camp is a massive miracle. When you actually think about it, it is just a big miracle. And I love that, and that's not lost. And it's never lost on me that God says, here's my kids. And they're not, you know, he's not here are all my happy, healthy kids. He says, here are my kids, and I trust you with them. And that's, yeah, and I really just hope that that's not lost on all of you. So pray, inviting the Holy Spirit to lead you into a deeper relationship with Jesus. If you allow, camp will change your life too. I know I said at the last training, if you are brave enough to ask God to break your heart for what breaks his, he will. That is messy. You might change the absolute plan that you thought was what you wanted to do for your life, but it's absolutely worth it. And there's no place I'd rather be, oh, it's a song there, than in your love. But then in God's plan, do you know what I mean? So the fact that we get to do this as part of camp and praying for wisdom to share hope and love and truth with our campers, I know that we don't know if these kids are ever going to be prayed for again, ever. We don't know that. Yes, we trust God with the kids when they go, but we don't really know if that will happen. We get the privilege of praying for them, remembering them, keeping them in mind, and it is an absolute honour. So pray for, just for flexibility and patience and energy, and again, just trusting God and relying on him, but we need to ask. Okay, royal treatment. So the campers want to be noticed and valued and treated like they're special. So we treat everyone royally, we treat each other royally, but we will have the royal treatment for our volunteers as well. Misty's going to do that for us, which is amazing. Misty is very good at treating everybody royally. So Mrs. Brown's husband, by the way, so I'm going to big her up. I won't slag her off. Wife. Sorry, missed. Walks. Oh, your husband? No. So, Misty's going to do that. See, surprise. But ways that we can be thinking about treating the children royally, as you've heard how they're greeted when they come off the coach, and about the applause, and about even how, and the grandparents are amazing at this, when children wet the bed, we don't make a fuss. The other kids in the room will have no idea that child has wet the bed. The child is encouraged to get up and go to the toilet. The bed is changed, it is clean, it is dry. Nobody knows. And that is just being so respectful and honouring. And again, who knows? You know, it takes away that shame, but who knows if that child has been treated like that before? We don't know. So why not treat them as best as we can and as royal as we can? You've heard all about Breakfast Club, J-Zone and the drama. It is all focused on creating these teachable moments. It is all focused on saying to these children, there's a purple army that love you and that are for you, but there is a God that loves you and that is for you. And even if that's all they remember, that's amazing. Camp Mail, we haven't talked about this. That's there's a section in the activity centre and there is a post box. And we get to send posts to the children. They can send posts to each other, send posts to us. We'll have a postie. One of our team from America that is coming over, she was like, my favourite part of camp is the post. I'm like, great, you can do it. But we make sure that every child has something. So there's a list in the post box to make sure that everyone has had a letter. And if not, then you might be on a night shift and you might be asked, oh, can you write this letter? Or if you're there big, you might be asked, can you make sure that they have posts? So even if you're in the activity centre with them that day, and you have opportunity, or you're sat in the staff room, or you as the rest of the volunteers have seen that child do something amazing, be specific, like so they can remember, but write them a little letter, pop it in the post, and that'll get to them. They keep them. So it's really another way, really, to just think like, actually, there's some affirmation and some praise that gets to go with them. First experiences. People always laugh because they're like, oh, Hannah always wants everything. Hannah wants donkeys at camp. Yes, Hannah does want donkeys at camp. Because the amount of children that have never been on a donkey, like, never been on a donkey, right? You've never been on a donkey. You can go on a donkey at Camp Ed. You'll have to, you might be a bit tall, but, like, you can try. See, but, yeah, you can try. Yeah. Yeah, maybe go last. Yeah, we did. Keisha. Keisha is in charge of our finances, which is why I'm like, yeah, we did book donkeys. Yeah. I told you this was going to be a surprise. So, but the point of it is about firsts, and like a lot of children have never been in a swimming pool, or they've been in a swimming pool but haven't been taught to swim. And Lifeguard Ellie's really good at saying, this is how you swim, and encouraging people to do that. And just like the whole reason why we do a birthday party at camp. So Wayne Tesh, who started Royal Family in the States, he realised that a lot of children just hadn't had a birthday party. I just think we often take for granted what we think is a normal experience. And I think you were talking about a little one earlier. Oh, okay. And she just doesn't get those things. She doesn't get to go to the park. She doesn't get those things. So, like, genuinely, these are our kids. So it's just really important to be thinking about those things. Okay, themes to reinforce during the week. Yeah, I don't know if you can see from where you are. I'm not going to read them out. But basically, that God is good and that he's for them. Basically, that's all of that in a nutshell. And I think sometimes, again, if you've been a Christian a long time and you have a good example of a dad, then you think, well, why wouldn't people think God is a good father? But actually, if you don't understand that concept, and if you don't have a good example of a dad, that could be really hard. So again, it's something that a lot of us automatically think about that isn't actually straightforward for a lot of people. Never mind children that, have been through what they've been through or are going through. So just helping children know that we are for them and we love them. And then if they ask us, why do we do it? Then we're able to say. Okay, so, I didn't realise this is on, yeah? Saying goodbye to the campers. Grieving deeply means that you have loved deeply. I don't think I need to, but I would plead for you to ask God to help you love these kids. Because, again, experiencing that, letting them experience God's unconditional love through you is amazing. But when they genuinely know that you are for them, that you are on their side, and I think this is going to kind of be a good visual. You know when you drive through a lane, sounds weird, bear with me. When you drive through a lane and you can't see around the corner, it's quite scary. I think it's quite scary anyway. When I'm driving through the lane, some people are like crazy people and go super duper fast, and I'll go quite slow. But if someone's driving in front of me, I'm like, yes! They're going to crash into them, not me. Happy days. I can see what's coming. I can put my foot on the brake. People behind me will think that, maybe, or come on, who's a slow driver? But, like, those lanes are unknown, especially if you drive through a lane you've never been through. We know camp is a safe place. We know a lot of us know God is a good God, that we are a safe team, but the children don't know that. We get to drive through the lane first. And actually, if a car's coming, let's let us be at the front. Do you know what I mean? For that week of camp, we get to be at the front and say to the other cars, come on then. And does that make sense? Like, I just really encourage you to say, God, here I am. Like, help me to be what you want me to be to these children. And yeah, just going back to that, remembering for us that we can't be with them all the time as much as we'd want to be, but God can, like, you know, and God is he's not going to leave them, and he's there for them. And yeah, I think it's okay that we get upset when we say bye to them. As a lot of you have been to camp before, you see the children that are graduating and that have been coming for a long time, they get upset when they leave. And I think that's okay, because I think how amazing, like even kids that, you know, that have healthy relationships, how amazing to think, do you know what, all these netters are sobbing because I'm off. Like, how amazing is that? Again, in life, you don't really get to experience that. There's just something really special about the whole experience of camp. So it is okay to be upset and to say bye. Be ready to go and make a difference. Be ready for your heart to change. I think we say we do everything we can to be ready. Are we really? Who knows? But we've got to try and trust God, and yeah, just be open to him. And I think we talk a lot about the rules and the policies and procedures, and they're all super duper important. But camp works because God is the foundation. And yeah, just to remind you of that and to encourage you to keep him there, really. So, as we end today, I would love to pray for us as a team. Again, I really want to encourage you to come to the prayer and praise night. It is really special, really important to be together. So please do come to that. I'll post on the group later. But are we all right to just stand?